Welcome to LA Global Currents, where our team at LA Marine discuss the latest topical issues in the maritime industry.
Hi, I am Scott Rolfe from LA Marine. Today I am meeting with Dr Tian Gan from the Centre for Assuring Autonomy in York. She is going to talk to us about AI and autonomy in the maritime industry. Welcome, Tian. Please introduce yourself and explain the work that the Centre for Assuring Autonomy does.
Thank you, Scott. Hi, everyone. My name is Tian. I'm the research associate from the Center for Assuring Autonomy. We are seated in the University of York, and we do the safety assurance work for the autonomous systems in different domains. For example, we do the automotive, we do aviation, and for me personal and healthcare as well. For me personally, I'm currently working on the safety assurance for maritime autonomy.
Thank you for introducing yourself. So, if you're okay, we're going to discuss today AI and autonomy in the maritime industry. So, I'll start by asking, you work on safety assurance in the maritime industry. What does safe mean to you?
Thank you. That's actually a really good question. So I would be quite careful about the word safe because in the safety critical domains, like safe does not mean that nothing can ever go wrong. But maritime operations are exposed to the weather, the traffic, the equipment degradations, communication issues, for example, and also the human decisions. So for me, a better phrase is the acceptable safe. So by that, I mean the safe enough for a clearly defined operation in a clearly defined environment with the risks that has been identified, reduced or monitored, and also supported by the evidence. So a vessel may be acceptably safe for low speed operation in a controlled port area, but doesn't automatically mean it is acceptably safe in the dense traffic, maybe poor visibilities because of the heavy weather or the degraded communication. So the question is not simply is the autonomous vessel safe, but it's also like this: is it safe for what operation, under what conditions, and with what level of human oversight, and like with what fallback if something goes wrong. So from a safety assurance perspective, like safety is not just a technical property, it is also a justified claim that we need a structured argument supported by the evidence and also showing that the system is acceptably safe within its intended operational context.
Thank you for that. So, just in terms of you were talking about autonomy in the maritime area, would you be able to go into more detail about what you mean by autonomy and if there's a clear definition of this in the maritime industry?
So I think there is a definition, but the difficulty is how the term is used in practice. So, like the IMO, like International Maritime Organization, IMO mass code defines the autonomous. So I think there is a definition, but the difficulty is like how this term is used in practice. So in my views, in terms of function, it is either autonomous or it is not. So where I think the levels become useful is not in the autonomy, but it's in the authority and control. So by level of control, I mean who or what can command the system in practice. Is a function controlled by an autonomous system on board, remote operator, or the crew on board, or something combined of all this? And by the level of authority, I mean who is permitted or responsible for making decisions. So, for example, like automation may control the rudder or speed within a defined operating envelope, but it may not have the authority to decide to enter a restricted area or override a human instruction. So this distinction matters because like the maritime autonomy is not just about the technical, right? It's not just about AI, but be broader. It is also the safety, the legal, and the operational questions. So after the incident, for example, we will not only ask like, oh, was the vessel autonomous, but we'll mostly likely to ask like, which function was autonomous and which conditions. So who had the control and who had the authority, or who could intervene, and whether the system was operating inside its verified boundaries.
Thank you for that. Obviously, there's quite a lot of concern in the public about AI systems and the confidence we should place with them. I just wondered if the maritime industry needs any evidence to gain confidence from the public in these AI systems.
This is this is a very big and broad question. I would say that we definitely need evidence across the whole life cycle. So not just one successful sea trial or one model accuracy score, which is like 99.9%. It doesn't actually mean anything in terms of the safety in deploy. So for the AI-enabled maritime systems, the confidence should come from several layers of evidence. So first, we need evidence about the operational context. So where the system is allowed to operate, under what weather, traffic, visibility, communication, or the vessel conditions. And second, we need hazard and risk evidence. So what can go wrong and how severe the sequences could be and what mitigations are in place. Then we need the AI specific evidence. So that include the quality and, for example, like the quality and representativeness of the training and test data set, model performance, robustness under degraded conditions, for example, and also about the uncertainty and the behavior under the rare but safety critical cases. And then when we kind of link the AI evidence, AI level evidence to the model level evidence, we need the system level from the simulation, the scenario based testings, the hardware in the loop test, the sea trials, and also the human operator studies. For example, like when we were in Singapore, we were also talking about some of the work we've been working at the moment, which is cybersecurity evidence, and also like the evidence that the remote operators can understand and intervene when needed. So I guess for the law and case perspective, it is sometimes like also important that you find some evidence from the case. So actually, I've also got questions. So it's more like discussions like what kind of evidence you would consider to look after the first if some accident would happen. At the moment, like there is not much cases or laws specifically for AI, right? But in terms of just conventional trials, conventional cases, like what are the most, let's say, evidence you've been looking for?
Obviously, it's very new, so we haven't really seen any cases with AI in the maritime industry because it's just come along. We obviously would expect, I'd say maybe you're probably thinking more longer term, within 5 years, to start getting cases and decisions made on AI systems. In terms of evidence, I think it would be important to have and ensure that there's safe procedures in place. There's also a really big question over who is liable if the AI system goes wrong. Would it be the master of the vessel, or would it be the person who designed the system? So that's going to be a big issue, I think, going forward.
I guess the accountability and liability is kind of the problem in the future. I could totally imagine that.
Yeah, I think so. Certainly, yes. It's always often liability, and if something goes wrong, who deals with it and who is responsible? I think that's the key with AI and marine and AI in general. So AI is developing at the moment, so I wanted to ask you, what should maritime lawyers, regulators and insurers pay attention to as these new AI systems move from trials to deployment at sea?
Right. So I think the key issue is the gap between a successful trial and routine deployment. So the trials are usually controlled with, limited in the scope, and deployment, on the other hand, is different. So the system has to operate repeatedly under the changing environment, under the changing weather, the traffic, and also about the maintenance and the commercial conditions, for example. So I think that lawyers, regulators, and insurers should pay attention to three different things, like about the boundaries, responsibilities, and evidence. So by boundaries is like where is the system allowed to operate and what happens if the conditions change. And by responsibilities, it's like who has the authority and who has a control, like we just discussed, and who can intervene, who is accountable if something goes wrong. In terms of evidence, it's more like can we trace what the system did and what the human saw and what decisions were made by human or by the machine, and whether the system was operating within its verified condition. So a line I would also use is like the move from trials to deployment is not just the technical transition, but is a transition in accountabilities. And because the IMO mass code takes effect from 1st July 2026, so next month, since I don't know if we're going to publish this in June, but the experience building phase is a good opportunity for all the stakeholders to learn what kind of evidence, reporting, or accountabilities structures that are actually needed in the practice.
Thank you so much for that. I thought I'd just ask one more question, if that's okay. In your opinion, how do you see AI shaping the future of the maritime industry?
Yes. So when we talk about maritime autonomy, we're not just talking about, those vessels, those unmanned surface vessel or the mass, but we're talking about this the port side infrastructure and autonomy as well. So in terms of AI in the shipping, in the maritime shipping, I think it's very important that how we could using or designing those AI tools that help us to better, for example, scheduling the berthing and unberthing at the port to maximize the efficiency of those vessels. For example, the container ships, how the berths at the port, how the autonomous or automotive giant crane may, transfer those containers from board to the terminal area. So I think in terms of efficiency, that's how we could use AI toolings to help us.
Okay, that's great, thank you. So thank you for talking to us today. Just before we finish, I wondered if you could share 3 key points that you would like our audience to remember from what we've discussed.
Sure. So the first takeaway I would say is that safe. So safe should be understood as the acceptably safe within a defined operational context. That's why we need those structured uh, reports to justify, okay, so this is actually safe in such operating context. And the second is that autonomy should be discussed at the function level, not just a simple label for the whole vessel. So it is important for the safety, legal responsibilities, and also the post-incident accountability to be discussed. And the third takeaway I would consider is that the deployment requires traceable evidence, not just the successful trials. So as the AI-enabled maritime systems move into the routine operations, that all the stakeholders should focus on the operational boundaries, responsibilities, and also the evidence showing what the system did, what the human saw, and then where the systems remained within the verified conditions.
That's great. Thank you for your time today and for coming on our podcast. And we wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you very much, Scott.